Hi everyone! Welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurship From Textbooks to Real Life. In this video, we will explore how managing suppliers and enforcing contracts can help your business run smoothly, from daily operations to protecting your long-term interests. Here's our roadmap for today. And this isn't just theory. It's about running a business that's reliable, fair, and ready for growth. Now let's start with the basics. What exactly is supplier management? Supplier management is basically how you handle the people or companies that provide your business with what you need, whether that's ingredients, materials, or services. When you manage your suppliers well, you create relationships that bring mutual value and peace of mind. When you manage your suppliers properly, your business becomes more efficient and less stressful. You get cost efficiency, you maintain quality assurance, you also reduce risks, and finally, you gain a competitive edge. So how does the whole process of managing suppliers actually work? Let's look at the supplier life cycle. Just like how products have a life cycle, supplier relationships do too. It starts with identification. That's finding potential suppliers. Then, evaluation. That's checking if they meet your standards. Next is selection, which is choosing the best fit for your business. And finally, management, keeping the relationship strong and productive. Let's take each stage one by one, starting with identifying the right suppliers. Finding good suppliers is like hiring the right employees. You have to look in the right places. Start with market research. Who are the trusted players in your industry? Ask for referrals from your business network or community. Check DTI registered suppliers or visit negosyo centers, especially if you are in the Philippines. Even trade fairs and industry events are great for meeting potential partners face to face. Now, once you've found possible suppliers, the next question is, how do you know which ones are truly reliable? Evaluating suppliers means doing your homework before committing. Check their financial stability. Can they handle your orders long term? Look into quality standards. Ask for product samples or visit their site. Consider delivery capability. Do they meet deadlines? And most importantly, assess their reputation. What do other clients say about them? And here's a smart way to think about supplier selection. Based on procurement-based practices, most businesses weigh it like this: 40% price competitiveness, 30% quality and reliability, 20% service and support, and 10% innovation potential. Once you've found that right supplier, the real work begins: building the relationship. Successful supplier management is like any good friendship. It's built on trust, open communication, and respect. Regular updates, transparency, and honoring commitments create strong partnerships. Be fair in your dealings. Remember, long-term relationships are more profitable than one-time transactions. Collaboration also helps both sides innovate and solve problems faster. But here's one truth about business. Even your best supplier can fail sometimes. That's why you should never rely on just one. In the next section, we will explore how to measure supplier performance and make sure the partnership continues to deliver value. Let's talk about measuring performance. You have to keep track of how well they deliver. Look at their on-time delivery rate, the accuracy of their orders, and how quickly they respond when issues come up. Monitor quality metrics like defect rates or returns, and check how flexible they are when plans suddenly change. So, When you manage suppliers well, what's in it for you? Let's see the real benefits. When you invest time and effort in managing suppliers effectively, the rewards are huge. You will see cost reductions through better negotiations and fewer inefficiencies. You'll also gain access to innovation. Many suppliers are experts in their field and can help you improve your processes or products. Then there's reliability. Smoother operations mean happier customers. And lastly, a market edge. Strong supplier partnerships are hard to copy, giving your business a real competitive advantage. Partnership creates value. When suppliers and businesses work closely, both sides win. Studies show that 65% of businesses report better efficiency when they have strategic supplier partnerships. Costs can go down by nearly half, and around 73% see more innovation because of these collaborations. When your supplier knows your goals and you trust each other, they will help you find better solutions. And that brings us to the next key part, making sure these partnerships are properly supported by contracts. At some point, you need contracts, the legal foundation that protects both sides. So, what exactly is a contract and why do we need to understand it as entrepreneurs? A contract is a legally binding agreement between two or more parties. It defines what each side promises to do. It sets the rules of the game, who delivers, who pays, when, and how. A contract protects your rights, removes confusion, and assigns responsibilities fairly. Contracts are your safety net. They provide legal protection. They bring clarity. They also build trust, and they serve as documentation. So, what makes a contract valid? A contract has to meet certain conditions to be valid. First, there must be an offer. Someone proposes clear terms. Then, acceptance. The other party agrees to those terms. Next is consideration. Something of value must be exchanged, like payment or service. Then, capacity. Both parties must be legally able to enter into a contract. And finally, legality. The contract's purpose must be lawful. If one of these is missing, the contract may not hold up in court. Every solid contract has a few must-haves. You start with the parties involved, the full legal names and contact details. Then define the scope of work. What exactly is being provided? Include payment terms, how much, when, and how it is paid. Set the timeline, quality standards, and termination clause, so you know what happens if things go south. Here in the Philippines, our contracts are governed by the Civil Code, specifically Articles 1305 to 1422. It outlines how contracts are formed, validated, and enforced. Now that you know the legal framework, let's see what happens throughout a contract's entire journey, from creation to closure. Think of a contract like a story. It has stages. It begins with drafting, where you write down the terms and conditions. Then comes negotiation, where both sides discuss and refine those terms. After that, there's execution, signing and making it official. Next, performance, where both sides fulfill their promises. And finally, renewal or closure, depending on how the relationship ends. Now, let's go step by step through each stage so you'll know how to handle contracts like a real entrepreneur. Let's start with drafting, the stage where everything begins. This is where you write the first version of your agreement. And the key is clarity. Be clear about deliverables, timelines, and responsibilities. Once the draft is ready, it's time to talk it through. That's where negotiation comes in. Negotiation is all about finding balance. Your job is to find common ground where everyone benefits. Before you start, prepare. Know what you're willing to compromise and what's non-negotiable. Listen actively to the other side. Sometimes you'll find solutions hidden in their concerns. Propose ideas that make both sides win, and once you agree, make sure you document every single change. In business, what's not written does not exist. Once both sides are happy, it's time to seal the deal and make it official. Execution time. This is where your contract turns from paper to power. Review the final draft carefully. Double check that all details are correct. Then, have it authorized by representatives and sign the agreement. For legal protection, have it notarized. Finally, make sure everyone gets a signed copy. Once the ink dries, the real work begins, performing what's promised in the contract. Here's where your operations meet your obligations. This stage is all about doing what you agreed to, delivering, paying, and maintaining communication. Keep track of deliverables, quality, and deadlines. And most importantly, document everything because they become your evidence if disputes ever arise. When all obligations are fulfilled, the contract reaches its natural end. If everything went well, you can renew it, maybe update some terms, or extend the partnership. If not, you can terminate it early, following the proper clause or mutual agreement. The key is to close things respectfully and properly documented, so doors stay open for future opportunities. But even the best plans can go sideways. Some common issues: delivery delays, quality problems, and payment disputes. Sometimes, suppliers fail to meet the agreed terms. That's a breach of contract. Your contract's clarity will determine how fast you recover. That's why vague or missing clauses can be dangerous. Let's make it real with a quick example from a local business setting. A Cebu-based garment manufacturer signed a deal with a fabric supplier, 10,000 meters of fabric every month. At first, everything was fine, but later, quality started dropping and deliveries became inconsistent. The manufacturer tried to complain, but the contract did not include quality standards or penalties. In short, they had no legal leverage. The lesson: a detailed contract is your shield. Always specify quality, timelines, and remedies before signing. Now, when agreements like that fail, the next step is to enforce your rights. Enforcing a contract simply means making sure both sides do what they agreed to. If one party fails, enforcement ensures that you're either compensated or the issue gets fixed. Contract enforcement is the process of making sure promises are kept. If a supplier or client fails to deliver, you have mechanisms to compel compliance or claim damages. Prevention through clear terms, resolution through agreed methods, and compensation for any losses suffered. When you know your rights and processes, you act. And sometimes, the reason you have to act is because a breach has happened. Let's look at the different kinds. Not all breaches are the same. A minor breach is when part of the deal isn't met, like a 2-day delivery delay. A material breach is more serious, like receiving only half of what you ordered. Then, there's anticipatory breach, where a supplier informs you in advance that they won't be able to deliver, for example, due to bankruptcy. Knowing the difference helps you decide how to respond properly. So, when something goes wrong, you generally have 4 options: negotiation, mediation, arbitration, and litigation. Let us unpack these one by one, starting with the simplest and most commonly used: negotiation. Negotiation is basically sitting down and talking things out directly. No lawyers, no third parties, just both sides finding a practical fix. If respect and professionalism are still on the table, start here. In negotiation, there's a right way to do it. Let's go over a few best practices. First, prepare thoroughly. Gather all your documents and evidence before any meeting. Next, stay professional. Avoid emotions. Focus on the facts and possible solutions. Third, aim for a win-win outcome. It's better to find balance than to win and lose a partner. Lastly, document everything you agree on. Get it in writing and signed by both parties. That way, you can move forward with confidence and clarity. When negotiation doesn't work, the next option is mediation. This is when a neutral third party, the mediator, steps in to help both sides communicate and find middle ground. It's a great option when both sides still want to work things out, but emotions are high. The best thing about mediation is that it is confidential, faster, and cheaper than litigation. It preserves business relationships and allows for creative solutions that a court might not even consider. In the Philippines, you can go to the Philippine Mediation Center, which helps settle business disputes in a professional but friendly setting. But if mediation still doesn't solve it, then it's time to move to something a little more formal: arbitration. Arbitration is like a private court. Both parties agree to let an arbitrator or a panel make a binding decision. It's more formal than mediation, but still faster and more confidential than litigation. Each side presents their evidence and arguments, and the arbitrator issues a decision that both parties must follow. It's commonly used in commercial disputes, especially with international contracts. Arbitration has several advantages. It's faster than court cases, handled by experts, and keep matters private. The decision is binding, and it is less formal than litigation. But it also has downsides. It can be costly, and there's usually no appeal. Here in the Philippines, the Construction Industry Arbitration Commission, or CIAC, handles building-related disputes, while PDRCI, or the Philippine Dispute Resolution Center, handles commercial ones. Now, if everything else fails, that's when you go to the last resort: litigation. Litigation is the full-blown court process where a judge decides the outcome. This process can take years and cost a lot, but it's the only path when you need a binding and forcible judgment. Litigation is public, formal, and often emotionally draining. That's why we always say, use it as your last resort. In the Philippines, commercial court cases can take 2 to 5 years to finish, sometimes even longer. Legal fees can easily exceed 500,000 pesos, and everything that happens in court becomes public record. So yes, litigation ensures justice, but it can also drain your time, money, and energy. That's why wise entrepreneurs focus on prevention by drafting better contracts and managing relationships properly from the start. Let's compare all 4 dispute resolution methods to see which one works best for different situations. Here's a quick comparison. Negotiation: lowest cost, fastest, and relationship friendly. Mediation: low cost, flexible, and preserves trust. Arbitration: more structured and binding, but moderately expensive. Litigation: slowest, most expensive, and often damages relationships. When conflicts happen, here's a simple rule of thumb. Start with negotiation. If that fails, try mediation. If you need a legally binding outcome but want to avoid court, go to arbitration. And finally, litigate only when absolutely necessary. But really, the best way to handle disputes is to prevent them before they happen. It sounds cliche, but it's true. Prevention is always better than cure. Write clear contracts. Include dispute resolution clauses. Maintain open communication. And most importantly, document everything. Now that we've gone full circle from suppliers to contracts to conflict resolution, let us sum everything up. First, strategic supplier management. It's about selecting and nurturing suppliers who align with your long-term goals. Second, contracts protect everyone. They provide clarity, accountability, and fairness. Third, when things go wrong, you have multiple paths: negotiation, mediation, arbitration, or litigation. Choose what fits best. And finally, ethics and integrity matter most. A contract is just paper without the character to honor it. And now, let's close with a quick reflection that ties everything back to real life. Managing suppliers and enforcing contracts isn't just about rules. It's about relationships. When we honor our word, communicate clearly, and treat partners fairly, we build a brand that people trust. That's what turns small businesses into sustainable ones. So, let's take what we've learned from textbooks to real life and practice it in the way we lead, decide, and do business every day. Because real entrepreneurship isn't about who signs the most deals. It's about who keeps their promises. This is Angie Capili, and you've just watched another lesson from entrepreneurship, from textbooks to real life. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow entrepreneurs so we can all grow and learn together.